Welcome, everybody. My name is Vicky Hanna, and I'm going to be running our session tonight. This is our Tuesday night certificate for in-use services. And look, we are in week 2 of 3 weeks for this particular unit, but I'd like to just take us back to the beginning, have a look at where we've been, where we're up to, and what we've got in our final week for week 3. So the unit that we are on, CHCMHS011, it is about assess and promote social, emotional, and physical well-being. This will be based around your knowledge, so your key learnings, which is where you'll do your written work, you go to your learner's guide and find your resources there. You have your slides, and then, of course, you'll have your live class recordings and some other resources that we give you as well. So let's begin. I'll give you an overview where this is a brief recording, part 1, and then we're going to go into a longer recording. So you'll get 2 recordings come to you from our amazing team at HADA. And in the second recording will be some of the practitioner skills. So there's task 1 is the quiz, task 2 is the role play, and then of course task 3 is role play. So we're going tonight to follow this recording with some practitioner skills. We're going to have any learners that are ready and happy to be assessed in class, which of course you do not have to be. Our class is pretty big on a Tuesday night, so but you will gain a lot, and we really value that peer review as well. So know that if you're not doing your role plays, you're gathering some great skills and you're encouraging your peers as well. So this one, if you are recording it externally to class, will look different. So if it says 10 minutes for the role play or no greater than 10 minutes, know that 10 minutes is what they're asking of you. But I'll walk us through that a little bit, just briefly, and then we'll jump straight in and do our practitioner skills. So I do want to start with our acknowledgement to country, recognising our First Nation community that we have at HADA as well. So in the spirit of reconciliation, HADA Institute of Education acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first inhabitants of this nation and the traditional custodians of the land on which we work, live and study. We express our gratitude for the sharing of this land, our sorrow for the personal, spiritual and cultural costs of that sharing, and hope that we may move forward together in harmony and in the spirit of healing. We pay our respect to all First Nation people and acknowledge elders past, present and emerging. And I extend this acknowledgement out to any of our learners who identify as First Nation, Torres Strait Island people, and anyone that comes to our classes. A little bit of housekeeping, depending on where you're up to. I think it's a really important point to let you know that when we're doing mental health units, I acknowledge that a lot of our learners may have a lived experience. It's an adult class. We are definitely a camera on college. However, I respect that that may not work for you. I know that you're there. I want you to use the chat if that's helpful for you, and observe and pick up those skills. That you come to class is definitely reciprocated from us, that it's a respectful place for you as well. So just give some encouragement in chat for people, the way they're working and what they're doing and supporting. But if you come to classes and you're getting something out of them, never coming on camera and not contributing to them, you might enjoy the recordings more than the actual live class. So find your style inside how we deliver it. We are blended. So we have recordings and we have live classes. You can can go at your own pace and move ahead and have units opened as you progress, or you can have extensions to give you more time. So HADA, yes, we do have classes and they are in groups, but it's very much an individual learner journey, and you can work with trainers and assessors individually as well as in our group classes each week. So reach out in the first instance to our learner support officers who work from 10 a.m. in the morning till 7 p.m. Monday to Friday. You can send them an email, and when I come on screen, you can see that I've got that email behind me. But I'll walk you through that. Just know that some content can be triggering. So if you don't come to classes and you're watching it, I'm letting you know that we're talking about mental health tonight. People who are experiencing that currently is what the scenarios are about. So look after yourself. We definitely run a respectful class where everyone turns up for work. I do like to work with you colleague to colleague in this space, and my role and my responsibility is to deliver a class that will help people complete their assessments to be able to get the qualification as well. Some people love to learn by watching. Other people do that. That's your style. That's great. You get plenty of that in our live classes. And then some people like to work independently, but sometimes people can't actually learn unless they see it be done beforehand. So we're aware of that, and we make sure that we have a very mixed approach in our classes to give you that experiential learning as well. So with this unit, just an overview, it's self-awareness for our client and ourselves. Make sure that we've looked into what are the therapeutic approaches that you're going to apply. We'll talk about that in our second recording tonight, where we're demonstrating what tools did they use. Was it your micro skills, your active listening, listening to understand? Or was it that you used an evidence-based model where you used OARs, those open-ended questions, or you may have even referred to some physical supports in your research. So you'll do some research, you'll get some from your learner's guide, but this is one where you need to explore, and find out who are some of the mental health service providers in your local area, what is there in your state, and then of course what is there on a national level. Some of those familiar names like Black Dog and Beyond Blue, this is certificate for in youth work, and I like to refer people over to YB Blue, which is the youth part of that. There's some great online chats and self-assessments as well. Black Dog is great, that self-assessment in there. They have the K10 or the KESLIS 10, where you can just do a self-assessment and go, wow, I might need to jump in and talk to my GP. I can see that I'm not getting much sleep. Probably I was aware of it, but now I see it there written in front of me. It's like, okay. So what tools are you going to use with your clients in these scenarios, these hypotheticals that we have? So you'll need to have an understanding of further your own therapeutic approaches and your style. So research which feels comfortable for you. Watch the recording after this one of what others might have. So some self-care, teaching our clients how to do that, but also doing that for ourselves, story after story after story. If you see between 5 and 8 clients a day when you're working, it can take little withdrawals from us. So we need to make sure that those deposits that we put in there, it might be people will go for a walk, which does improve our mental health. It might be that they eat more nutritious, which does improve our mental health as well. It might mean that we socialize with people, or get engaged in group activities or solo activities. Whatever that self-care is, we guide our clients, but we also need to make sure that we're guiding ourselves too. Developing a plan in collaboration with your client, And then everybody is different, even our learners as well. So you'll see similar role plays get done. However, you'll see completely different approaches as well. And that's great. That's what we're looking for, that authentic you coming into that space. And then what are the determinants of physical well-being? They're all those things. Our making sure that we have good rest, good nutrition, that we're getting some exercise, that we're socializing in a controlled way that's good for us, but to also know that what might be some indicators that we aren't traveling real well. And we'll talk about what some of those are, especially in our role plays. There's a little bit of information we give you, and that will help you step off to be able to run those. And then sex and physical and mental health wellbeing, those releases around that, do some more study on that. So sex isn't necessarily the act of, it could be how someone identifies themselves and how there may be stigma and judgment in that space. So our sexuality and our gender are two different things. So around mental health, you'll find that a lot of people from the LGBTIQAI plus are quite vulnerable and do experience greater occasions of mental health issues because there's a real anxiety and struggling while they're learning who they are and where they fit in and finding their tribe as well. So that's the mental health unit. So your assessments are task 2 and task 3. Mary is the client in that, and Jane is the client in task 3. So that's our session we're going to run into tonight. Task 1, 2 and 3 get covered sequentially. So week 1, we did an overview. We had a look at the quiz. Week 2 is role plays. Week 3, of course, is also role plays for this. So we're addressing the application of mental health principles in youth work settings. So we're working with young people. A young person is anyone between the ages of 12 to 24, but we also acknowledge that we might be working with up to 35, which is our Gen Y. So that's just our overview, just a brief one, just to let you know that role plays are client-based. So it's about getting to know the client. And if you can get your client to talk 60% of the time and you're 40%, that's amazing. You bring into that space your compassion, your connection, and your collaboration. This is you and the client, and not you giving advice. You might have a solution focus around that space if the client has their own goals. There'll be a time when we're ready to do that. It'll be whether they're into that space of gathering information to make a decision or they're still contemplating what that's like. And your role will be to find out where they're up to with that, how things are going for them, what they would like to get out of their sessions with you on that day, and then whether there'll be follow-up sessions as well. Don't let imposter syndrome stop you from role playing. Gain your confidence and reduce your fears. The more you do, the better you get. And there's plenty of role plays in your certificate for. But look, this is where it unravels for all of us, myself included, when I'm on the spot and you know that you're being assessed. Lights, camera, action can often mean freeze. So it's okay to feel nervous. That's your body telling you, I'm anxious, but it's important. But what's on the other side of it is greater. So I'm just going to feel the fear and face that and do it anyway. So you're in a very safe environment when you come into classes. We have very sound, healthy professional boundaries, and everyone comes in ready to go to work, which means that we're colleagues in that space as well. So you'll see that I've used the acronym here where I've done role play there, and just breaking that down for you. R is respect the client's experience, their own experience with what they're presenting with. Own your professional tone when you're in there, and you'll listen for these things when you jump in to watch the second recording. And then listen with the purpose. So listen to understand and empathize before advising. Pause before you speak. Lean into real life scenarios. Be authentic when you jump into that space. Ask those open-ended questions, the who, what, how, when, where, and why. Why would that be something that you would like to do? Tell me more about that. What was that like when you were doing it? When was there a time where you did feel stronger? And what were some of those things that you were doing back then? We're trying to get them to reflect on, have they been feeling more regulated in the past? And what were some of the things that helped them get there? So you are learning and progress over perfection. So I want you to be kind to yourself while you're doing this as well. I also want to just take us into a space now of, I'd love to be able to show you what we have for our assessment task. So let me just walk you through that before we jump into watching some people actually do their assessments. Okay. So what you're looking at here is my porthole. You can see up the top, which you see, I think yours might be in green, CHCMHS011, assess and promote social, emotional, and physical well-being. And the role play is your practitioner skills. So you'll see here that it's T2, which is task 2, and there are 4. The 4th one sits in your work placement. So it gives you an overview. It also lets you know that you will need to go in and have a look at your first access site. So when you click on that link, it will prompt you to put your username, Hayter Institute, and your password, Hayter123456. It tells you what the task summary is. So there's part A and part B. And then there will be opportunities for people. You'll do the assessment of the well-being of the client. So you're doing an assessment, not a diagnosis. You are a non-clinical worker. We work with clinicians, so GPs and psychologists and psychiatrists, staff at the mental health unit, social workers, as well, occupational therapists, speech therapists, if we're in that space of NDIS. So yeah, like there's lots of allied health professionals who are clinicians, and we are part of the Alliance Circle, the wraparound support for our clients. So you'll do an assessment on the document where it says Mary. So in the first part of this, you'll complete a role play skill, and you'll have a client play or someone play Mary for you. When we do these in classes, your peers step in. But every time they play a client, they're stronger in their own practitioner skills. So even if you're not ready to be assessed, being the client and reading that without feeling the pressure of being assessed, step into that space. That might be a way to ease in for you. But please don't be nervous, because you absolutely must do role plays, your skills, and demonstrate those. You've chosen online learning, virtual classrooms. So the only way to look at your skills is for you to either do them live in classes with your assessor or to record them. And you can, some you do on your own. I don't mind whether it is do on own or assessor led in our classes. I like to make sure that I give you that opportunity to have peers, not have to book it and try and get that one ticked off and submitted, so that you can progress on to your next unit. So then, of course, part C is Mary will come back and you'll perform a review and reflect on the effectiveness of the work and the services that you've provided. This one here is not assessor-led. It says you must complete the task in your own time. So the recording that you're going to see after this is going to give you a demonstration. Just know that you will follow the instructions exactly. The real-time ones in classes, we vary those. We vary them because there's an assessor there and we do that peer review. You will be required to do a recording, and your recording will tell you, which I will do that. Let me pop you into this space. Item 2. So it says you need your IT gear. You'll need to have a background where you're setting up a simulated workplace environment. You will be dressed for work, and the person playing the client will. And if when you record it, you will be on the screen the whole time, which means that you'll set it up to gallery. If you're using Zoom, you definitely have access to Zoom for 40 minutes. And just make sure that you're well and truly ready and prepared. So it's asking you some video conferencing, but look, I find Zoom is great. It's free, 40 minutes. And if there's if you don't think you've got enough time, just make sure that you do part A, you say what it is, or part B or part C, and then put the client's name in there so that whoever's assessing, if you've got a few in there, you'll do it like that. Play your recording back. If you're satisfied that it meets the criteria of what it says, then you're on the right track. So it might take you a couple of times to get there before you submit. So you'll do your case notes, you'll fill those in, and your case notes will reflect or mirror what you did in your role play as well. You can add in some reflection at the end of it. In your case notes, you could say that where you are with Mary, where you would like to be with Mary in your upcoming sessions if she continues to access your support. So you'll need your documents, which is there, which of course is the support plan that you're going to create for Mary, and the spaces in your support plan are your prompts to be able to show where you're up to. I'll talk about that in our recording for our role plays. So you look up the privacy and confidentiality procedures, the assessment policy and procedure, which is identified when you go into first access as SC8. But if you put in keywords like assessment policy, then it should just scroll through and look for it. And when you see SC8, you'll know you're in the right policy and procedure. You are required to have an understanding of that and prepare for your role plays as well. So then any other information externally, what's in your local postcode, if you're going to be a worker there, what services are around based on what Mary presents for task 2 and what might be helpful for Mary. So Mary's got a small home-based business. She's a graphic artist. She's had a recent mental health diagnosis of bipolar, and she does have some substance misuse in her history, and that's based around self-medicating. So with bipolar, the symptoms around that, we will talk about what that would be like when we're doing our second part of our recording. But for now, you just need to make sure that you're going to the role play instructions, and we've got a link in there for you. And that is for the person that plays Mary. What does Mary have to know? So if you're doing that with class, you will know what it's like to sit there and be Mary for somebody else. But you also need to know what Mary's going to come in and how she's going to frame it and apply it to that. That's where our observation checklist is as the assessor. So it can be played by another learner from your class or a family member or a friend, but you must know that they have read the instructions, they're prepared, and they're physically in that headspace. They bring that authentic self into it. So if you've got someone that's just reading off a script, we're not going to be able to assess you effectively. But if you can get someone that can read it and go, oh, I can be Mary for you, yeah, and just kind of like get into that move. It says here no greater than the 15 minutes that you're required to do, but 15 minutes you must do. Not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8. So would we look at something after 10, like 11 and 12? But you know what? You need every one of those 15 minutes to be able to achieve what your assessor is actually looking for. So it says here, during the observation, your assessor, so when we're watching your recordings and assessing, this is what we're looking for. Provide personal information and resources about how to take care of those emotional and social well-being needs that they bring to you in that scenario. That you're going to reflect on and discover what their strengths are and explore the domains of well-being with the person. You will ensure the person understands their options, their limitations, and guidelines for discussing certain topics, which is your privacy and confidentiality, those healthy professional boundaries, putting that in. A good way to do both of those is to introduce yourself and say, I'm the worker here at First Access, and First Access is an organisation that delivers quite a lot of services. So I'm going to be your support worker, and we'll start, and then this is about getting to know each other. I've got a little bit of information about the client, but it's the first time that you're actually meeting. So building rapport, establishing trust is very important. So letting them know who you are and what your role is, it puts a good, healthy professional boundary between client and worker. We do that because we don't want to over deliver and over promise, sorry, and under deliver. But we also don't want a codependent relationship. We want it strength based. So we need to validate and acknowledge what's happening for our client. And then we find those moments, if it's not now, in the past, when things were better and were going well, we work on those strengths because that is evidence that they can and that things will move forward for them. You'll collaborate with the client, you'll find and discuss and get and record in the plan any sort of consent that you did achieve. So you put that in, consent was achieved, I got that verbally, or I had them fill in a consent form. And if you are, mention that in your role play. So identify when they last had a health check. So mental health is often triggered around physical. So a lot of social workers will say, you know, when was the last time you saw your GP? If you're on medication and it's not working, had you spoken to your GP about that? And they go, oh, they're so busy and they're lovely and I don't want to bother them, or they just rush you in and out. You can help them get a list. Here are some things that I really wanted to cover today. And some blood tests as well. We'll find out if they're deficient in iron or if they're not hydrated effectively. All of those will impact on someone's mental health. Encourage that social wellness by recognising an individual's social circle, or I call it our alliance circle, who's around us, who's our wraparound supports. And if there aren't a lot, then we're going to build on that. That then becomes part of our body of work. And then do they need assistance in that? So is that something that maybe you'd like to look into? I know that Men's Shed is one of those places. It's great. There's Brave Brothers. They do walks and talks around. They find the best pathways. There's a lot of nature and as well, where they find the local sort of settings, and the Brave Brothers, they just walk. They're not in a hurry. It's definitely about the journey, not the destination. So it's good, but it's men only. So we have one in our local area. They have a men's shed, and I was kind of thinking, you know, so what have we got that's structured? We seem to be doing some really great work for men, and I think it's long long overdue. So, but it isn't about going in talking about your feelings. It's about going in, doing things of interest, and maybe those feelings will turn up. And maybe it's the silent support, but we're not as isolated when we find something where we can have a common interest. So encourage emotional well-being by identifying their strengths, challenges and triggers, how well they've done, and that they have taken the first step. Be aware of the cultural differences and the differing abilities for people, and make sure that you work with them and meet your client where they are rather than wait for our client to meet us where we are. If our client doesn't have that cognitive or the language or the development, or they're impacted by grief and loss, or ambiguous loss, that frozen sadness, PTSD or CPTSD from developmental years, and trauma, then just know that we work at their pace and we meet our clients where they are rather than the other way around. We have to get into what is that world like for our client, and that's where empathy happens. So you'll be required to submit your recording if you're not doing them in classes, no greater than the 15 minutes that you are required. You'll need to save it in MP format, so save to own device. The reason being is that anything else you will find may not open. You may have some other programs, but you need to upload it and send it to yourself, and then open it and find out. If it doesn't open in 30 seconds, then the assessor might go, you need to save it in another format. So if it's quick to open, then you're on the right track for sure. If you've got 15 minutes, you're on the right track. And that you upload that, and you will also attach to that your completed wellbeing support plan for Mary, which of course we knew we had up here, the role play instructions, and then further up there are your case notes for Mary, which gives you Mary's story, what happened to Mary. And then there is the template of the support plan. You're going to fill that in. It's going to be all about Mary, and you're going to upload both the recording, and you're going to upload the wellbeing and support plan for Mary. Those two things are your submission for task 2. So you'll find that some people will be talking about Mary in our second recording. So let me just stop sharing there. I just want to just jump into that space. Okay, it says an error has recurred. Okay, so that's fine. Let me just stop sharing and jump back into that space and find it. I've obviously been out of my porthole for a little longer. Okay, so I just want to show now the task 3, also role play, as is task 4. So I'll go over that a little bit more for us next week, but just for the point of tonight, our second part is going to be task 2 and task 3 role plays being conducted, and people who give consent to have them recorded, you'll be able to see those. So just an overview, again, you're going to need your first access. You log in and get your information, and it says this role play has 3 parts. So it is part A, you complete the assessment and wellbeing, which means that part of your role play is that you're going to get the discussion that you have. In this case, this is about Jane, the name of the client. So task 2 is Mary, task 3 is Jane, and task 4 is Peter, all mental health clients. So part A is the filling it out of the form. Part B is you will complete a role play where another person will play the role of Jane, and you must follow First Access's policies and procedures to provide interpersonal communication and counselling techniques. Mouthful. So, so here it's going, you will do it in your own time, which means you don't need to book an assessor. However, some learners do go ahead and will book an assessor and get a few of you together and go, can we grab you? And it might be a smaller group. So it's up to you to do your networking and get your peers, or jump over into Discord. Because we do rolling starts, we don't know when you're ready. And so we only know the unit, and we know the unit based on CHCMHS011. And then we know where you need that support is task 3 of 4, and it's a role play. So when you're seeking support, do that from class. If you don't make it to classes, then go to your learner support officers and say, look, I'm looking for people. They'll direct you over to Discord to find other people. But this one, it actually says you can do with family and friends. And of course, we're going to show you a recording to give you a feel. But your instructions, if you're not in class, must absolutely be exactly what it says in the instructions, because we assess you based on that. So your resources and equipment, which you will need. You'll need the evaluation template, and another person who's going to play the role of Jane. Here are Jane's instructions, and you need to coach someone if it's family or friends. If it's another learner, then they absolutely will have an understanding. They'll sit in the chair for you and play the client, and then you'll be the worker. Just make sure, like I said, that when you're recording your own, that you are the person being assessed at all times is on screen. Save it in gallery, record to your own device. Use Zoom, that's free. You've got 40 minutes. This one, we require 10 minutes. So it says no greater than the 10 minutes that it's meant to be. So if it is a little bit more, it's only because you introduced yourself and you showed your ID, what it is that we need. Just haven't got mine with me, but let's just say that I was showing you my ID. I would just say, hi, my name is Vicky Hannah. I would have that on the bottom of my screen. Here is my ID. And I will be doing the role play CHCMHS011, and I'm doing task 3 of 4. The client that I'm working with at the moment is going to be Jane. And then I just do a little bit of a talk and introduce Jane. Jane comes to us with someone who has had a very serious accident, and it has impacted a previously very healthy person, and now they're restricted and they're a wheelchair user. It's unlikely that Jane will walk, and so Jane is dealing with the trauma of the event, and 2, what does life look like beyond that, with lots of operations, lots of physical therapy and rebuilding Jane's life. But Jane was very active in sport, very good at business, so they will be strengths that we'll be wanting you to sort of explore with Jane. You know, what was life like before the accident, Jane? If you've got that relationship and you go there. So just keep in mind that whenever a client talks about their story and there is trauma, we are re-injuring them. We're asking them to be very vulnerable by sharing that. So while it's not happening to us, we have to be fully present for what would that be like. Is that something that perhaps you'd be comfortable to talk about more today, Jane? And today, what would you like that to be? And let Jane ease in. So it will look very different for everybody's role play, but we're looking for certain things. So it'll say during the role play, your assessor will be looking to see that you can regularly review and support strategies, including contingency plans. So one of the role plays I'm hoping that we do is that if someone is stuck and they're not sure, you as the worker could even demonstrate and go, well, you could do it like this, and you could work in that collaborative space. And then it's a follow-up, and it's like, how did that go? And so you're reviewing. It didn't work very well. Okay, all right. So do you think that's timing? Is it something that's in your control or out of your control? So you may say that in different words, but that's where you're up to, is like, can they let that go? Are they sitting in blame or shame? And neither of those are going to help them build their resilience or improve their mental health. But don't be in a rush for people to cheer up or, like change, where they just meet them where they are, and let them sit with that, that feeling as well. So try not to think that they come in, got a problem and solve it. If Jane wanted you to solve a problem, she'd probably like to not be in the wheelchair, but you can't do that. So, so you need to help Jane find meaning in her life, connection. There are other things that are still within Jane's control. And then you'll do a review of how things are going after that, and making sure you're filling the template. Here are the policies and procedures that you go into in First Access. And then in the final part, it is playing the case manager, worker, and the wellbeing support, making sure that you've got that plan and that that one doesn't go any greater than the 15 minutes that you've got allocated. Gosh. So let's see if we can have a look at our other role play, the final one. And look, we're not going to be doing that tonight, but we are going to be doing that at tagging it on the end of next week. So that's task 3, and the final one will be task 4. And it looks again very much like that. So quite a few qualifications do this. AOD, the diplomas do this as well, as does mental health. So youth work diploma, AOD, and Cert 4 also in mental health. And then of course your qualification certificate for in youth work. So this one is, again, another role play, a practitioner skill. So you are a non-clinical practitioner. As a youth worker, here are your clients. So we've got clients for you that are inside that age group as well as young, but your youth worker approach is about having a good understanding. Your client, your young person, may actually be caring for someone who has gone through something like this. So your understanding around mental health in this capacity could be child, youth, and family framework that you're working in. Everyone has a mental health. You and I both do, our clients do, their family members do. It's about helping them understand themselves so that they can be compassionate when others are going through it. Young people will go to another young person before they'll go to a youth worker. So you could be skilling someone on how to listen effectively, but not own that problem, but encourage them and have them walk beside their mate so that maybe they would seek some help with a youth worker as well. So the resources that you need are the same. So you're going to do your client assessment, your template. There's going to be a story about Peter, and this is about Peter, who's 30, so still just in that Gen Y period, who's been diagnosed with schizophrenia. He has experienced several hospitalizations, so he's been had episodes or psychotic episodes in the past due to his condition, and has a history of substance abuse. Now, it is timely that I mentioned to you that you can have drug-induced schizophrenia and drug-induced psychosis, and this can turn up even when someone stops using that substance. So it's very important. Early signs of paranoia, imagining things are happening, imagining that they put something down and it's missing, and you've got to pay attention to that. And then others around them can be at risk. So when we do our privacy and confidentiality, we have a duty of care around our clients. The language, setting the scene, how we approach these conversations need to be done in a very compassionate way. And so we call that our compassionate inquiry. Gabor Mate is one of the most esteemed people in this field. if you do a little bit of research, or if you're into Spotify, you can listen to some podcasts. But Gabor Mate does really beautiful work around compassionate inquiry, which is how we ask those questions in a safe way, non-judgmentally. Go to TEDx, watch some of those talks. All practitioners do that. There's some great ones there. There's a terrific one by Michael Bungay Stainer, Taming My Advice Monster. Just woo it back a little, so silence is okay in your role plays as well. If your client is talking 60% of the time in your role play and you're 40%, you are absolutely nailing it. So it's about getting the client to talk if they are ready to and willing. But that doesn't mean you have to fill the spaces and the gaps. Silence is healing. Silence is powerful because it's the energy that you have in that space to just sit with it. Try not to fix it, but ask some questions. They may be resistant or they may be cooperative. It just depends. Mental health is not up and down. It's not linear. If you look at it from the top, it actually is a spiral. When we're, I guess, sort of navigating that space, it spirals up and it spirals down. But when we look at it, it can look like a flat line and we label it, but don't, labels belong on jars, not on people. But if your client identifies by the diagnosis, that is what gives the client comfort and soothing. A diagnosis can be something that people struggle with, but it can also be very freeing. So the only way we'll ever know is like, what was that like for you when you were first diagnosed? I was relieved, or I just thought people will know this secret about me. So we look at that blame shame, and people will be harder on themselves, or they will struggle and they'll be trying to mask and hide that diagnosis. So you'll be working with Peter in this space. I want you to read the instructions. You again will be Maria Camberwell, a case manager at First Access, your simulated workplace environment. And here where you're dropping your assessment, you will click on there and you will upload where you have saved your role play and where you have saved your documents. And if you need help with that, your learner support officers will 100% help you with that. So following that, it's just asking you to access your textbooks or your learner guide and your slides and any other material, watching some of the videos and looking for some of your own, finding out what's available for your clients in your local area, and then also if there's an online one as well. Think mental health and go looking. So you'll complete the role play with another person. Their instructions for Peter are there as well. And with this scenario, you'll follow on, you'll continue in your role. You're going to conduct a review meeting, which is your follow-up. So you do your assessment and information, and you may refer or you may have something offered in First Access. You will know what First Access has to offer because you'll go in onto their dashboard and you'll have a look around. Go to the homepage. Don't just go straight to the templates and the policies and procedures. Have a look around and find out what services they offer, because when someone comes looking for you, that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to look you up. They're going to check you out. They're going to see if they can find you. So that's a helpful thing to navigate that space with First Access. During this time, we're going to observe you. If you review your support strategy, so you do the follow-up and you've got a plan B, if that doesn't work, we can look at something else. Identify if there's any cultural improvements. So Peter does identify from a different culture. And then how has that been going, Peter? People with a mental health diagnosis can hold down jobs and function extremely well because they're in treatment and they're getting therapy and they're navigating that space. But if they've got maladaptive coping mechanisms, if it's substance misuse or alcohol or other addictive type behaviors, it will take them away from that hope and healing space that will give them that work-life balance or their life balance and their sense of self-worth and their relationships with others. So you're going to be exploring 3 completely different types of clients, all experiencing mental health issues. And then we're going to follow that up with, we're going to do some learners tonight. In our second recording, we'll do Mary, and some will do Jane, the task 2 and the task 3. And then, of course, in our recording next week, we will wrap up if anyone is ready to do Peter. Otherwise, they will do those outside of classes, which of course the instructions are there for you to be able to do. You'll upload your video, which will be for 10 minutes, no greater than 10, very close, recorded in a format that we can open quickly. Test that for yourself. And you will have the completed evaluation form for Peter, which was the link for you in your instructions. So I hope you find that helpful, and that you'll be able to go in and navigate that space. If you need some assistance whatsoever, we have some amazing resources on how to do your role plays. If you're fairly new to HADA and this is your first unit, our learner support officers also have some amazing resources on click on this button to find your resources in that as well, how to go over into your porthole. So we've got lots of little short resources to help you and some longer ones as well. And then, of course, what we're going to do in our part 2, those resources are going to happen in class. Yours will look different because you're following your instructions. The live class role plays look different because they're assessor-led and done in real time, and we vary that. What I've got to do is make sure that I've got my observation checklist and I've captured the underpinning knowledge, and you have applied that knowledge over with your skills, and I will assess that for you. So stay tuned. We're going to jump in. You'll have your second recording. I want you to watch some people do the practitioner skills. So we will have part 2. Take a break, settle in, and watch some of your peers doing that now.